Let's go for it!
Hey everybody, it's me, your buddy Dave, the host here at the Dark Stuff channel. Thanks a lot for checking out the new video. So I got a pretty special one this time around. I've got an interview with David Nance. Now, if you've been watching my channel for any period of time, going back maybe 5-6 years or so, you've seen that I've mentioned David Nance a couple of times. I've shot little clips of him here and there at various local shows, and I've also talked about his records when they come out. He is a singer-songwriter, guitar player, recording artist based here in Omaha, though he does tour internationally, and we get into that in the interview. So he's got a new record out right here called Pulverized and Slightly Peaced. It's brand new, okay, on the Petty Bunco label. And he just did a release show for it last week at a place in Omaha called Reverb. Here's the poster for it. Okay, I snagged that on my way out. And while I was there, I just was like, hey, you know, would you be interested in doing an interview for the radio show? That was the initial idea, was come and do the radio show. And he said, yeah, that's fine. And I said, what about for YouTube? And he's like, yeah, okay. If you are unfamiliar with the music of David Nance, his music is, to me, it's like kind of like a potent mix of 60s and 70s style classic guitar rock, which lives right alongside healthy amounts of like punk rock, garage rock, noise, plus a sort of like anything goes, capture the moment, very loose production style, a style that can sort of be defined as lo-fi, but I don't know, I think that description's a bit limiting in my opinion. Even when recorded in a professional studio, the music still feels as vibrant and spontaneous as a basement recording. So in fact, the band did 2017's Negative Boogie album, which was recorded at top of the line ARC Studios here in Omaha. It's Connor Oberst's studio, and all the songs were all first take. So it has this amazing, raw, energetic feel, though it does sound like it was done in a studio. It sounds nice. It's a good sound. For those of you who are members of the vinyl community, and you know who you are, will recognize that Nance's current bass player is Derek Higgins. His channel is a really popular vinyl community channel, and I'll put a link to that because chances are you're already subscribed to that one, but you'll recognize him in a lot of the video clips that are going to be coming up in this. So I hope you enjoy the video. It does get to a point where we're more or less just bullshitting about stuff after a while, but I kept most of it in there. It's about an hour long. I think you'll enjoy it. I'm holding your new record, Pulverized and Slightly Peaced, right here. Now, explain to me the difference between, you know, for those of you who have these other records, there's Peaced and Slightly Pulverized, which came out a few years ago.
Yeah.
Credited to the group. And there are some similarities and some song overlaps, but they're not the same recording. So,
not at all.
Why exactly did you feel like you needed to release this? Is it like it's supposed to be a companion to the other record, a replacement for the other record?
So it was more pressure from the guy that wanted to release this album, Richie Charles. He's out in Philly. I initially made these recordings, and it was after we made the Negative Boogie, and that was our first time in a real studio, and it was a lot for me to take in. I liked it, but I also hated it.
Right.
So I'm used to a 4-track, so pretty much like the week after we made that album, I made this in kind of response to it, and just wrote songs and just ripped and did it. And so I brought those songs into the band, and I thought this would be the record because I had been talking with my friend and Richie Charles, who put this record out, Petty Bunco. I think it was Richie Records at the time, or Testosterone, whatever moniker he's using. I brought that to him. Brought this record. So confusing. It's so lame. I brought this record.
So you brought the Pulverized. The
4-track recordings to him to put out. And but then we, the band I have, we started playing all these songs a lot, and we toured a lot, and so they just became better. And it's like, oh, we should record that, and that should be the real record. And then so we were Peaced and Slightly
Pulverized
is what it became, and then this is, I don't know, it's convoluted and stuff. This is kind of just like it feels one-off to me. It was recorded in 2017. So it's to say it's like a new record is like sure, it's fine.
Right.
But it's nice to have something come out, and I'm really happy with it.
Well, as someone who has both, it's by no means the same record.
No,
even though there are a couple of duplicate songs,
yeah.
Amethyst on this one's 20 minutes. It's like 5 or 6 minutes on the other version.
Yeah.
It's so they are different. They're not exactly the same songs just because they have the same title. So it was just sort of like the guy wanted to put it out, and you were totally cool with it.
Yeah, just like why it should be released. It's a different thing, as you said.
Yeah, absolutely. So the group that you've got right now that you just did a release show for the other day, which was when people are listening, who knows? So anyways, a little while ago. And you were calling it the Mowed sound. Yeah. No, is that the name we're going with for the group, or is that just for that particular show? Or
we want to push. We gotta that's the tentative title of the next record. So what it is, and that becomes the band name, and then hopefully we can. Because I hate using David Nance group.
You don't want to use that anymore.
I got into music. I didn't think I'd be releasing records all the time and stuff like that. I was just making stuff out of my closet. And in the end, it was just I put my name on it because I don't know, because that was my name, and I didn't want to think of a band name.
Right.
And now that's more of a something. It's like I'd like to have a band name, but probably it's not going to work because that's the name that people know. And
well, so who's currently in the band? I mean, I know, but for the purposes of the people who are hearing this for the first time,
we've got Kevin Donahue on drums, Derek Higgins on bass, and James Schroeder on guitar.
Now, Derek, people will know because he's sort of an Omaha music legend. He's been around for a super long time.
Yeah.
And going back to Digital Sex and all the early precursors of the Omaha sort of scene, Derek was involved. He had his footprints in there a lot. He's been in the band a short time. The other two guys you played with for a while now, right?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, we kind of cycle through bass players like Spinal Tap cycles through drummers. Yeah.
So, so this band that is working on the current record, how far along are we? What is the next step for you? Because that would mean your newest music, I guess, would be the Staunch Honey record, right? As far as newer songs go.
Yeah.
And that was 2020, so it's like your pandemic record, maybe, or something like that.
It wasn't intentionally that way, but I mean, I think anything that comes out that time is like, oh, it's your Pando record,
right?
But I didn't think it was.
No.
But yeah, no, the record's done. We've had it done for like 4 months. We spent. Wait, no, we got done in February. That's probably like 4 months away from that at this point. We spent 3 or 4 months working on it, and it's it's just done. It's ready to go. So
you referenced the idea of you've worked in a big studio, but you're more used to the 4-track sort of thing, or maybe prefer it, Or,
if I'm recording it, that's what I'm used to, and I can work. That was also when I was pretty green. I've gotten a lot better in knowing what I need out of a studio, and also like the last, I've been working. Jim, who plays guitar with us, he's been recording all the stuff, and he's just phenomenal. He recorded a Peaced and Slightly Pulverized too.
Right.
But he just has a set up in his basement. He's been getting phenomenally better, like every year, and this record he knocked it out of the park. So
that's his forthcoming one, though.
Yep.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. So sort of being like, I don't know, lo-fi or whatever is more just an occurrence, not necessarily like an attempt to define a sound.
No,
being a certain way, right?
It's just what's around.
Yeah.
It's like, I learned how to use a 4-track because my ex-girlfriend gave me one, and that's all I knew how to record on. And then I don't know how to use computers, so I'm just comfortable with that. But I want to make stuff,
right?
So
is it with like a cassette? And it's an old school 4-track.
Yeah, I've upgraded to the Tascam 488 8-track.
Okay.
And sorry, I feel like it's like the pro model
yeah.
of the 4-track, but yeah, it's still 4-track. Yeah.
Interesting. Okay, so I guess so that would be what you're gonna. When I talked to you before, you had said you're going to be touring maybe in end of July. I think you said. Mm-hmm. So is that going to be a tour in support of this record? Will it be out by that point?
No,
or no.
This is far off.
And is that just you by yourself, or are you going to be touring with a band when you're going out?
Yeah, we're it's this group. We're actually doing a split tour. There's this woman Rosali that we made a record with right before the pandemic that came out in 2021, and it did really well. And we went out with that band Destroyer for a month.
Yeah,
that was really fun. And so this tour in July is we're going up to this festival in Portland, Pickathon.
Oh, I've heard of that. Yeah.
Yeah, and so we're just doing some gigs, and so we're kind of trading off like, oh, is it a Rosali? Because this band, like the David Nance group or whatever, backs up Rosali.
Okay.
And so, is it going to be a Rosali gig? Is it going to be a David Nance gig? That's kind of just how we're working our way out there. Yeah.
Now, you mentioned before how you started making recordings like in your closet, you said, or whatever. Mm-hmm. These kind of cassettes or whatever, maybe.
Yeah.
Which for the purposes of credibility, I did not buy at the time. These were years later. I got them. So I'm not saying I was there from day one or anything like that.
No one was.
In fact, I'm pretty embarrassed to say this, but a friend of mine from outside of Omaha is the one who turned me on to your music.
Oh, yeah, James.
James, yeah. He sent me this text, which pulled a clip from a review. I think it was for More Than Enough, and it mentioned Omaha in it. So he texts me and is like, hey, so do you know this David Nance guy? And I'm like, I'm kind of embarrassed to say no, I don't, And then I went on this like hunt to like search you out and try to find it, and then I got the record, and then I ended up meeting you eventually. But that was just like, wow, how do I not know this? Like someone from Minneapolis is telling me about an Omaha artist. But so how did you get your start then? I mean, was it always, were these cassettes the beginning? Did you have other bands that you were doing as a teenager? Or I've seen stuff going back to like 2012. Is that sort of when it started for you, or were you doing stuff even earlier than that?
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. I like dropped out of college like the first semester to start touring in bands. I played in that band Brimstone Howl.
Oh yeah, I remember Brimstone Howl.
For like 2.5 years.
Okay.
Yeah. So that's how I got my foot, hooked into the stuff. And then my first band, horrible, the Forbidden Tigers.
Yeah.
But yeah, we got a little bit of notoriety with playing like 4 shows and released some records, which was pretty cool. And then I gigged with Simon Joyner for like 5 years, still, I played on his last record too, so it's kind of just revolving door with him. I had this band, The Prairies, that it's one of those bands where like I think we were together like 4 years and we wrote 8 songs the whole time. It was just getting plowed and playing parties, But yeah, during that time, that was like when I first moved to Omaha.
So you didn't grow up in Omaha?
No, I'm from Grand Island.
Okay.
Yeah, I think I moved up here 2009.
Okay.
And so soon after that, I started making my own recordings, and then I think 2011 was the first thing I released.
First thing you released, okay.
Yeah.
Now, Grand Island, there's actually another connection, because I think that's where the Mogus brothers are from out there originally.
No way, what?
Okay.
They're from Grand Island?
I'd have to duplicate this, to have to
maybe
check this.
Kearney?
No. It definitely wasn't Carney. Put a pin in that. I'm going to research. We're going to figure out if that's the case or not. Because I feel like I interviewed Matt Foch, and he told me about when he met them in the dorms, and they were not from Omaha or Lincoln. I felt like they said they were from Grand Island, and they moved in. That's how they met, was in the dorms in Lincoln.
Man, I felt like I would have heard that if they were from Grand Island. You know,
I'll do some research. We'll figure out if that's the actual case or not.
Yeah. I'm not saying you're wrong,
because I don't know. I'm not. Now I'm losing faith that I'm exactly right on that one. I'm not completely sure. Actually, I don't. That sounded right, but I'm just not sure. So, college is when you started doing this, pursuing it a little more seriously.
Lack of college. I didn't go to college. I went to like 5 hours of class.
5 hours of class. Okay.
I was like, I can't do it.
I mean, was there a specific record, or at any time growing up, was there a specific record or an artist or a show you saw where you're like, yeah, okay, I could see myself doing that, or I want to do that, or something like that.
Oh yeah, definitely. I mean, I didn't really know anything about music growing up because there's not much access to it. All you had is like Spin magazine and Hastings,
right.
And so you get turned on to kind of the normal stuff, which is like, I don't know, I liked it enough, but it wasn't It wasn't like I wanted to play music because of that. But a little taboo now, but the Retards Teenage Hate, I heard that record. Yeah, I heard that when I was in high school, and that like destroyed me. It was like, because it's 4-track recordings. It's like, it sounds like anyone can do it, and all you just have to do is just want to do it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And like care about it. And yeah, it destroyed me. So I became like a garage turkey after that, and thought, that was the path. And, I mean, there's so much wrong with garage music, but, there's a lot of good stuff.
It's still very enjoyable. And it's like, you can always, every couple years, there's a new crop of just great garage rock bands that seem to have just come out of nowhere, or they were listening to the same records or whatever. I mean,
but also, like when I was in high school, that stuff was really in vogue. Like you're getting pushed, the Strokes and
the
White Stripes. So it's
stuff,
definitely, like that sound was in my ear, but I liked it. But when I heard like real people making that music, that's what got me really interested in it.
Right.
Because. Yeah. And not to say that they're not real people. They're obviously real people, but hearing it from just like a very ground level, just like anyone can do this. Like that's
now, have you gone back and looked into, like, not necessarily garage rock, but there was a huge sort of lo-fi scene in the early 90s where it was like Guided by Voices and Sebado and and Pavement to a certain degree when they first started out, and groups like that who they did it out of necessity too. It was like, well, the idea of going to a 16 or 24 track studio was so out of the question because it was so expensive. Engineers had no idea what kind of music they were making and just gave them blank stares, and they learned how to do it sort of their own way. That's sort of what I used to love, that sound.
Oh, me too, yeah.
And it would get people, but I thought it seemed like for a lot of bands it was kind of transitional. Like they did that until they didn't have to anymore, as opposed to Guided by Voices has always kind of kept it that way for the most part.
It's a good sound. They realize that, I mean, they definitely have studio records that sound great, but it's like Bob Pollar's a master of a 4-track.
Absolutely.
Like using it like an instrument.
No, they did the records with Rick Ocasek, and those are really nice, but I much prefer the hearing the tape hiss and all of that kind of just the crazy noise that they used to do back in their early days. We've kind of addressed the new record and the differences between them. So for the purposes of people who are just starting to get into your music now, I thought maybe I'd talk to you just to ask brief sort of thoughts about different records that you've done. Like this was my introduction to you here, was More Than Enough. Which I thought that was you on the front, because I was like, why would the main guy like be all the way over on the side?
Yeah.
But this was sort of my introduction to you. What was going on at this time when you made the More Than Enough record? This is 2016?
Yeah, that's when it came out. Okay. I was living in Los Angeles in 2015 and started working on recordings. Yeah, I'd made a tape out there and stuff. But I was in LA for my wife Not at the time, but you know, we came back here and we got hitched, so it worked out. But yeah, I was there. I wasn't being a musician in LA.
No.
Yeah, I played with some people, but just like, you know, like probably like I think I played like 5 times and like.
You just didn't really connect with people, or just didn't like the scene?
I wasn't really going out, you know. Yeah. I definitely had friends and stuff like that, but I wasn't really going out to shows and stuff like that. I was working like 60 hours a week at a kitchen, so I was just burnt out most of the time. But, you know, I go and record stuff, and so I was getting this slew of songs. I think I tried to make more than enough. I tried to make it like 2 or 3 times and had it done. Like, nah, that's garbage. Start again. Nah, that's garbage. And then came back to Omaha, and then, you know, I was like, oh, I got these songs, and in a week, you know, some friends joined up on some of the recordings, and some of it I did by myself, you know, and then that was the record.
So the next one would be the Negative Boogie one?
Yeah.
Okay. Now, this is a different record sounding, because this is the one that you went into the studio for. And this is an ARC? Mm-hmm. Okay. Now, is that just because you wanted to experiment with it? You wanted to try? I mean, or...
no, man, someone gave us money to go into a
Really?
studio.
Okay.
Yeah. So, no, Bada Bing, the label that did More Than Enough, you know, they threw us in advance. And so I just never even thought about going in a recording studio, and they gave us the money to do it. So it was... You know, we got 3 days. We recorded, I think, 17 songs.
Holy crap!
And then just whittled it down to 11. And everything is first take. You know, just like we don't have time to redo anything.
Yeah, because it doesn't sound slick by any means. No. It sounds really raw. Yeah. Just not, you know, I mean, not lo-fi, but not slick by any means. So
no.
For people who are wondering, I mean.
That's what it said last week. And the week before.
So, but you haven't gone back and done a studio record like that since. That just because of lack of money, or you don't want to try it again?
No, we could do it again, but also just like we've gotten, but you know, like I said,
well,
Jimmy
home recording has gotten so much better now.
Yeah, you know, and you know, I'm a big believer in, you know, time over money. Like, if you can spend time on something, you can get a better product than throwing a bunch of money at it. I mean, time and money. Usually you can get good stuff out of there. But, you know, I much prefer the process of either spending, you know, just like months with a band getting it up, or months in a studio working on something, you know, because you can really fine-tune it and listen.
Now, is there any difference between your process, if you think it's going to be credited as to you, or do you want it credited to the band, or... Is there any difference in how you approach it, or you write and then you just sort of adapt it to who you're playing with?
Yeah, I mean, I've been playing with, you know, Jim and Kev for so long that I think about them when I'm doing something with them. It's like all the records that probably anyone listening to this is gonna know is with Jim and Kev. You know, that last one, that was just me, the Pulverized and Slightly Peaced. But you know, the band sounding ones, I was a fool to not credit Negative Boogie as a band record, because it's Jim and Tom May was playing bass on this.
It sounds like a band. I mean, fully like...
Yeah, and they're massive to the sound of it. So yeah, whenever there's a band, that's why I hate just having the David Nance moniker, because it takes away from them, because it's a band. You know, like, what do you listen to in rock records? Lyrics?
Right.
No, it's rhythm.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, so. For with your stuff, I mean, it is the whole vibe, because I get lost in the jamming, in the whatever, you know, in the various things, because it does, so much of your music does remind me of stuff that I have always loved, you know, going back to like Neil Young and Crazy Horse and stuff like that, where he can do real epic kind of jamming stuff and noisy stuff, and then he can do like a nice lighter song or whatever, and it's just as sincere, the level is just as good, you know, it's not like, oh, he's doing his quiet one, let's, you know, go get a beer at the show or whatever. It's like, no, that's not how it works with him.
Right.
And so he's always somebody that I saw as a good comparison. Is that, you think that's like...
Oh, I mean, yeah, when I heard Zuma when I was like 23, I didn't listen to anything else for a very long time.
Yeah, that's a fucking great record.
It's an amazing record, yeah.
So, okay, so moving on, the next one would be after that would have been the the original Peaced and Slightly Pulverized.
Peaced and Slightly Pulverized, yeah.
Okay, that's the band version.
I saw you last
Staunch Honey came out. Again, just credited to you on this one.
Mm-hmm.
What was the story behind this one? I mean,
well, I we had been doing all this band stuff, and I wanted to make something more removed, something more home, like presenting a big record on like a home kind of centric level. Kevin does play drums on 3 tracks in this. Jim plays bass on a song, but I really, and this is one I made I went with a guy in a studio. It was just me and him, and made it, and it didn't work out, and I spent some money on that, and that all went down the toilet.
Oh,
so
really?
And then I went and
you couldn't salvage any of it to use.
Well, it didn't have the right vibe.
Yeah.
It was, it wasn't worth saving. Usually, that point where it's just like, oh, you've gone so far in one direction, you got to throw it in the trash can, just start over. It's easier that way.
Yeah.
So,
I wouldn't know. I don't know. I've
Yeah.
never made any records myself, but
Yeah, I'm telling you, for me, that's
Yeah.
how it works best. But yeah, this is just a home recorded thing. Using chairs and water bottles as percussion, and it's pretty home fried sound. Yeah.
But again, it has a lo-fi feel, but it's an infinitely listenable record. I mean, when you play songs like The Merchandise or whatever, like which is a song I've played on the radio a number of times, it sounds right. It fits well with the other stuff, which is, my show's a little more traditional indie rock or whatever, but it fits in with that well, in my opinion. I mean, I don't know, maybe I'm not the listener. I'm the, the person who's doing the show, but
Yeah. Well, I'm, not to talk about rival stations, but I'm obsessed with like 94.5 Boomer Radio, because they just play like the 60s and 70s, like AM pop stuff that is incredible. I love that. I can't go on about another station.
No,
too
it's
much.
fine. This one, it won't be on. It'll be on the regular long form interview.
Yeah.
They don't care.
Yeah, but they just play so much deep cut stuff, and that's like mostly what I listen to in my car, and that's what inspires me a lot. Perfect.
I know you're also a record collector, a record person.
Sure. Yeah.
And I met you. I think you were working in a record store at the time, the late great Almost Music, which I still lament the loss of that store. It was great.
It's a great store.
So, what are your thoughts on...
Love you, Brad Smith.
Yeah. What are your thoughts on the whole streaming kind of deal? Like, your stuff is available, and it's out there for people to listen to if they want to, but I'm a record person who has extremely mixed feelings about that stuff. You have to be aware of what actual younger people are doing, how they're accessing music, but at the same time, that system is so problematic, and it doesn't train people towards, like...
What the hell system in America, like, isn't problematic?
Well, I guess that's a fair point.
You know what I mean? It's just like, yeah, it sucks, and it's like ripping people off, and that money goes to, like, guns and fucking... like missiles and shit, or like security defense. Yeah, it's horrible, but like, I don't know, people, there's an accessibility with it that it's like, I'm into that, but yeah, I never point people in that direction. I think Bandcamp is like the great equalizer.
Right. Well, Bandcamp too. I should have mentioned them too, because I never lump them in with...
No, as they shouldn't be.
With Spotify now, because they're not the same thing.
No, they're not. They should. But just as far as like streaming platforms online, that that's the one. That's the one that cares.
And yours is davidnance.bandcamp.com.
That's it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
But,
I'll put a little thing on the screen.
Yeah, but
so people see it.
Spotify, I don't know, man. It's nice to. I'm a sucker like everyone else in America for convenience, and it's nice to like. Oh shit! I want to hear that Billie Holiday song.
Look, it's great, and I like I said, I have very mixed feelings about it, because it's the Netflix of music, what it's doing. It's making it so you're renting access to music, but you don't actually have it.
Right. But it's also, it creates that thing of like, you really don't experience the music. You know what I mean? It's just so, especially just on that app, where it just fries you out, and you don't sit with anything. It kills your attention span.
Right.
So that's why I still buy records, because I like a 45-minute, the length of a record time to dedicate.
Far too simple. Lord, who sits and really thinks it through. Have sympathy. Oh.
also, I mean, I'm just gonna be on the side of people. It's like records are expensive too, man. You know, and it's like, yeah, the way I'm into records now is I love dollar bins and stuff like that, and that's how I got into it because it was the cheap format and getting stuff, and that's always what's going to be attractive to it about me. But you know, yeah, anything that helps people listen to music and just, you know, like people, I'm gonna be for it. You know, but it sucks that it like comes back on the artist so hard and really, you know, I don't know. I'm just kind of oblivious to how much money I could make through it, so I just don't even fucking think about it.
Yeah. Well, how much money? There's probably $6 out there waiting for you or something. You know.
Yeah, I mean, music industry is always fucked over the artists. Like there's nothing new to that. You know, there's like the top, you know, 1% of artists that get the dough,
right?
And then everyone else is just.
But it feels like before, at least you kind of understood how they were screwing you. Mm-hmm. Like there was a way to understand. Okay, there's this many records, and then they take out for breakables, and then they give you. But now, it's just streaming on the internet, and you have no idea what that means. How is that accurately measured? How do they know? Yeah. And that's what baffles me, and that more artists aren't more upset about it. But at the same time, it's like I don't know what a solution is, because younger people today, and I'm talking younger, like under 25 maybe, they've never purchased a record or a CD. There's exceptions, obviously, because I meet young people.
I would say there's a lot of exception to that. You know, like playing gigs, like there's a lot of kids that come and buy stuff, you know, and that's the thing. Like as I get older, like I never want to just like young kids don't fucking get it. It's like young kids get it, man. They're just like put in the situations that they are, and they just got to adapt, you know.
But they didn't grow. I guess what I'm saying, they didn't grow up with it. It is a more a novelty to like, hey, look, there's all these records or whatever. Right. And when I go to Homer's or Grapefruit, that's what I was trying to think of. Simon Joyner's shop.
Love you, Simon.
If I go in there and sorry, I blanked on the name for a second there. When I go in there and I do see young kids looking through, it's like, oh, that's super encouraging. Like I love that.
Yeah, I mean, maybe the act of buying a record is novelty, but the experience of it isn't.
No.
You know, and anyone that goes to that knows it isn't novelty. You know, that truly connects with it.
Now. I feel like when you have access to everything, it's hard to make choices. Like, what do you want to listen to?
For sure.
Oh, there's a million choices.
That's what I don't like about it.
It's hard. Like I, you know, if you have your records that you have, then that's what you're listening to. Like you can really dig, you know, very deep into them and stuff like that.
Or something like that where, I don't know, you learn about an artist and then you like blow through them in like 4 days.
Yeah.
Like someone's like life work, and like you really don't get the nuance of like all the detail of it. It's like that seems really gross to me. But also it's like that's, you know, time, like how people want to work through things right now. There's a lot of things to hear and
everything
do
is
and shit. So I don't know.
Everything is binging now, because even with television and stuff like that, now you don't have to wait a week to see a show. You could just watch 10 of them in one day if you have nothing else to do. It's a different mentality. I try to keep up, but I
mean,
you know,
we've just been bred for consumerism, so it feeds into like every
and I find it so disturbing to myself that I'm like defending the old music industry of saying, well, at least it was better then. I mean, it was still shitty back then for sure, you know. But
just the thought process now of everything, of how we get everything, it's so fried and fucked up, you know. So when you had it the other way, like I'm lucky, like that I, you know, had the time of like tapes and records, and where you know, you weren't able to stream. Like the thing I miss that like kids don't have now, of like the thing when you would hear about a record that you had no fucking way of like finding it, or even know, like you would just get like a description of like, what the fuck, that sounds insane. Mm-hmm. And now it's just like, oh, I hear about that record, you put it on YouTube,
it's there in 2 seconds.
Yeah, there's no hunt mystery of just like this, you know, like treasure out there.
Well, it's also just music reviews, music journalism in general, music writing, music magazines hardly exist anymore. Like I used to read NME and Melody Maker and read about these English bands that weren't on the radio in Omaha, because Omaha had an allergy to playing anything from the
Right.
UK.
Yeah.
It was all just, Foreigner and, that kind of stuff.
Exactly. Yeah.
So to hear something that seemed, exotic or whatever, you'd see it on MTV to a certain degree, but I would read about these bands and, go through the old import section and stuff. And yeah, I guess that is sort of lost because now you can just read a blurb about somebody and then you can just hear it immediately. So you don't have to put any effort into it.
Yeah.
But, so yeah, I guess I kind of miss that,
I'm trying to think of like a band in particular, or like this band, the Homosexuals from the UK. I remember hearing about, the Soft South Africans 45. This is like a couple years before it got reissued on CD, the Astral Glamour CD, and then hearing that 7-inch, and then it was like maybe it's speaking to like Spotify now, like hearing an artist's whole career, but it was like the 3 CD like collection of their career. And it was just like the most mind-blowing shit, just because you read like the little blurb on, what was it, Spoit Victorian Child from some blog or something. I can't remember. But yeah, having that experience was just like, Jesus Christ, this is like so good.
Around my feet, it ain't warm like this back in NYC. There's nothing left for me. There's nothing there who felt like you and me. The sun shone down and said, don't you speak, give all your mind.
Is there an artist out there whose sort of career, for lack of a better word, or the way they've kind of handled their stuff that you can sort of emulate and say, like, I liked how that guy handled his business, like how, because there's so many stories of people who are just did terrible things, made very questionable decisions. Great artist. Rod Stewart has more garbage than good stuff, but he was great at one point. He just made a lot of questionable decisions over the years. So is there somebody like a Lou Reed, a Neil Young, or somebody who you can look to and say, yeah, that guy did it the right way? Or do you ever not even think in those terms, really?
I mean, it's hard to tell the career. It's like, it's hard to judge like an artist's career of records or something like that, especially like through the lens of time, where it's just like, definitely like listening to like Lou Reed's solo stuff. I was just like when I first got into Velvet Underground, I was like, what is this shit? Like, what is he doing? But then as I've gotten older, it's just like, oh, he's fucking doing his thing. Yeah. And it's like, it's really cool to me that like, I'm trying to think of like someone consistent. I mean, JJ Cale, I was obsessed with for like, I got into him like 4 or 5 years ago, and his first 8 records are great. When he comes back, like the sound is not quite there, which is like on his first 8 records, but I don't know. But also it's like their career is like they're actually in some industry, where it's like, JJ Cale had like 3 hits from his first record, which he worked for like, 10 or 15 years before that. Right. But, he gets those first 3 hits and then he doesn't have to do anything the rest of his fucking life. He can live modestly in a trailer and just write songs, because he's living off the royalties of fucking Call Me the Breeze or, not Cocaine's on Troubadour, but what's the After Midnight, I think, is on the first one too. Yeah. Yeah. It's like, there's something cool about that where you do one thing and then you can just like, now I'm making the real shit. Like I think of like Mark Hollis, like Talk Talk. Yeah. Where like the first record has It's My Life, which is a beautiful song. And then you get like Spirit of Eden or like what are the I'm trying to think of the last 2 records that are just like the darkest, craziest shit that he was like able to do because he made the money off of It's My Life or whatever. I feel like a total poser now. Because he definitely got the huge payday when No Doubt covered them, and that was probably like, hey, I just bought myself a house, I just got a car, all of this. Oh, absolutely. But yeah, Spirit of Eden and Laughing Stock. Laughing Stock was my favorite one that I heard, but it's like, I mean, that was even way before, No Doubt covered that stuff. Because, I mean, that was like a massive song.
Yeah,
you
no,
know?
I mean, I definitely remember Talk in the 80s when they
Right.
came out, but my reference was it was just like, yeah, they probably were doing okay and did well.
Oh, sure.
But
Yeah.
that when that No Doubt cover, it's like, yeah, here it goes. Kids are going to college now, because of
Totally.
something like that. And it's sort of like, I can't hate No Doubt for doing that because thank you for helping them out in that way.
Now
or whatever,
everyone gets how great that song is.
Right. And they don't try to do anything other than, praise the song and whatever. But I had a tangent about Gwen Stefani, who really cares on that score. But I just think the whole kind of the career arc of certain people is interesting
For sure.
in certain cases because like I used Rod Stewart as an example, and he's not really the best example to use, but of somebody who, he was amazing at one point, and you just kind of wonder, what was he thinking when he did this kind of record? But then again, who knows? Maybe he really, that's his muse, was just he followed whatever he wanted to do. And
Well, he was not really a songwriter. He was a singer.
Yeah.
It's like I look at him like Barbra Streisand or something like that, and I like Barbra Streisand records.
Yeah.
I think there's some cool stuff there, but she was just a singer. She was doing what she was in the industry's pocket, and Rod Stewart was in fucking like one of the best bands ever.
Absolutely.
And then
Faces,
made incredible solo records too. But then after that, it's just like, okay, you've done that Stones thing for like 5 records. How about you do that disco record?
Yeah.
And he gives us Young Turks, which is Jesus Christ. That's an
That's a
incredible
great song. That's a great song.
Yeah.
I think he gave Carmine a piece writing credit on that too. That and because as a favor to him, because he knew Carmine Appice from Vanilla Fudge was his drummer back in the late '70s, and was kind of broke because he didn't get any money from Vanilla Fudge. And Rod Stewart gave him writing credit on like "Do You Think I'm Sexy" and I think one maybe "Young Turks" as like a gift of like, hey,
amazing.
this is for you and whatever. Which is just like, holy crap, thanks, bro. I mean,
Yeah. I mean, I love seeing the longevity of an artist that like still keeps going, even when it's like it's not catering to the audience and they're just following their thing, because it's like, I don't have to understand it. This is like it's a journal. It's like it's their human experience through music. It's weird when it's on the mass level of where these like massive records are getting pitched to you, and I don't know. People are doing what they're doing. It's not trying to.
You did some shows with Jack White a while back, a couple of years ago, right?
We opened for him once.
We opened for him. Oh, just one time. Okay.
We were supposed to open for him twice, but I turned down one of the gigs like a fool because we had another gig.
Oh, it wasn't like some forget Jack White.
No.
No. Because I feel like he's somebody who's kind of handled his success pretty well.
Totally.
I mean, I'm not in love with everything that he's done, but at the same time,
he's doing his thing.
I don't question his integrity. I don't question his
absolutely
motives
not.
behind making a song or whatever. It's just completely pure with someone like that.
Yeah, and he's going forward. He's not like trying to make the white stripes again. I think that's really cool.
Absolutely.
And like what he does with like Third Man and shit, man. It's like we've played Third Man multiple times, and it's like helped us out on tours. It's like that place acts as like an artist nonprofit in some ways. Like there's no governmental help to musicians, and it's like something like that where it's like you go play there and there's like guaranteed $500 to play there. It's like that's huge.
Yeah.
And just what he does with the label, and then like watching. I hadn't listened to a Jack record in a while, and then watching him play, like that shit was fucking awesome, man. It was like there was blood pumping through it. It was it was a real band. It was like loose.
Because I only saw him with the
Yeah.
White Stripes at the club level, and then years later saw him as a solo act in an arena.
Yeah.
And was just like, there are very few artists that I've followed when they started off at the club level, and I could see them there, and then they moved all the way up to that sort of upper echelon or whatever. It was cool seeing him there. I mean, I love club gigs because you can get close. And you have a different experience, and the artist is like right there and stuff.
Well, the sound travels through your body differently, and like a club gig, you feel it differently.
But I grew up on arena rock, and every show in my foundational years of music was all at the old Omaha Civic Auditorium. Every one of those classic rock or hard rock shows of the '80s, I was there.
I've only seen one show in a big setting where it actually affected me. Granted, from the Jack thing, because we were like side stage, so that was a different experience, and the sound's hitting you different. But when I worked at Coachella for a couple years cooking pad thai, a miserable gig. But one of the years, AC/DC was headlining, and I snuck out and watched them play, and it was like incredible. It was like I've never seen so many amps like dimed. The guitar sound was there. They fucking ruled. I think it was like one of the last gigs like Brian Johnson did with them before like Axl Rose took over. But there was, and I'm not a big Brian Johnson fan, but like goddamn, like they were amazing. And it was like being like 200 yards away from him. It was like still like I'm fucking feeling this. Like that's crazy.
Yeah. So I mean I like I said, grew up on a lot of the old arena shows, but and this is gonna classify me as kind of a dork here, but my favorite group of all time was Kiss, because when I got into them as a little kid,
Kiss is killer,
and I love them, and I got to see them on a reunion tour in the front row, because a friend of mine was on their crew. He's like, I'm supposed to give these to like hot chicks to sit in the front, but you guys can take them.
Wait, so what reunion tour is this?
This was in like '98, so it was like back in the '90s when they got back with Ace Frehley, Peter Criss.
Okay.
And that
Ace Frehley, the best member of Kiss.
Oh, absolutely. I'll show you
100%.
something back there with when I met him. I had made this giant montage of him. That's cool that you're a Kiss fan. I didn't have to apologize for it.
No.
Sometimes I get beat down, so I'm used to people not liking it. So I don't care.
I like monster trucks and fucking professional wrestling too. Like I'm sucker for gimmicks. They had some good songs. I mean, they're also like evil as fuck. Like,
listen,
they're pieces
some of the
of
shit
shit.
they say. Some of the shit they say is absolutely indefensible.
Yeah,
and some of the stuff they do is ridiculous. I mean, they're Paul Stanley's guitar tech got COVID on tour, and they ditched him in a hotel in some city, and the tour just moved on. They just left him there. I mean, it's like, are you serious, dude? I mean,
it's like apropos, man. But yeah, man, fucking, I don't know. Early Kiss records are sick, dude.
Yeah,
like, the sound's hot.
I'm very glad to hear that you say that, because I love it. But well, all right. I pretty much I wanted to keep it kind of light and stuff, and not try to strain your brain too much on that.
Strain my brain. Throw me more shit, man.
Yeah,
I'm in it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, so what are there? Do you have sort of a future goal, or what do you want? Do you want to stay in Omaha? Do you want to?
I'll definitely stay in Omaha.
Stay in Omaha.
Yeah,
and,
I own a house here. So
okay.
This is it. But.
So you want to? But is it to? I mean, I don't know, ascend to the next level or whatever that might mean, or just be sustainable as like I can do music full time. I don't have to have another.
Well, I'm fine having another gig.
Yeah.
Like that doesn't bother me, and but yeah, I there's still music flowing in me, so that's like whenever I finish an album, I have like 12 songs, or I have like a slew of material that's just like keeps coming. So like, I feel like when that stops, it's like, okay, maybe I'll check and see what's going on, but that's never been the case.
Right.
And it like, I get so much from it. It keeps feeding, we try to keep growing in a different direction and not do the same thing. Even though it's always going to sound like you.
Right.
But we try to do different stuff and try to keep pushing on. So yeah, and that's the thing I like the most in life is like doing gigs and traveling around and making records, like and writing songs. Like when I write a song, like that's the best. Like when I figure a song out, whether it be like 5 minutes or the one you spend like 3 months on or something, like that's the best feeling. in
The
life.
3 months or the 5 minutes one?
Well, I mean, the 5-minute one, they're amazing,
Yeah.
you know, because there's like no work involved. It's just
Right.
coming through you. But, you know, when you get a good one after spending like 5 months on it, like that's a sick. I've definitely come into, you know, things with that where you spend a lot of time on something. It's like, man, I just made a fucking shiny turd, you know? But that's the way it goes. And I mean, at least I have it that, you know, you can see it in hindsight. I mean, I always run everything by my wife because, you know, she's definitely into music, but not anywhere near I am. And she has a great point of view about it. You know, when I bring something to her, she's just like, oh, that's shit. That's stupid. That doesn't affect me. Or it's like, this one affects me. And, you know, there's definitely things I feel where it's like, oh, I think you might be wrong on that one. But then most of the time she's right, you know.
Well, because there's no agenda behind it.
Exactly.
You know that, you know,
it's just
where-
like, how does this affect me? And I think that opinion's really important. Of someone that's not like, oh, you sound like, you know, Crispy Ambulance with like a little bit of the Flying Nun. You know, you got the guitar
right.
scrum
It's
in
just
there.
like, I
that-
like this.
Yeah, exactly. I think that's really important.
Now you've toured and played outside of the United States.
Yeah.
What was the what was the reaction there, and what countries did you play?
So I've done Europe twice.
No, as like
Yeah,
David
as-
Nance went out there.
Yeah,
or, okay.
yeah. I've done. I think I did Europe once before that with Simon, and then twice with my band, and yeah, there. You know, sometimes we had some shows that were kind of bunk with the, you know, the booking aspect of it, but then our booker also did great. We had some great gigs that, you know, you'd show up to a place and there's no opener on the bill, and you're like, well, this is going to be miserable.
Yeah.
And then it was like, you know, packed room and everyone's attentive and buying a bunch of shit, and you know, because that means like they want to keep
Right.
listening to it. Not just like, oh yeah, we sold a bunch of shit, man. Like,
No, but-
fuck that. You know, it's like,
There's got to be some way to measure it. You know, I mean, of people who are
it's
enthused.
nice
yeah.
when someone like caught that feeling and it's like, oh, I want to take that home with me. You know, so yeah, like the response was good. I toured Australia once, and that was amazing because we did it like so renegade, man. Like I played with this couple. They run a label and they have a couple bands, and they were the rhythm section, and it was just so loosey goosey. It was so cool. Like the first gig, we're like riding in, you know, some small ass car with a dog on our lap, and you know, we show up and there's one guitar amp, there's no bass amp, so we plug into the bass, and we like picked up this guy to like play guitar with us, so we're both plugging into the same amp, and like those are the sickest gigs because you're playing like Geelong or Beechworth, like some hotel lobby, but like people are stoked as hell. And then we'd play with all these other Australian bands that were just amazing, like not coming from like the same, like they just have their own lineage of like what it's supposed to be, and you know, just totally mind-blowing shit. Like, yeah, that was one of my favorite tours ever. Well, also we had a layover in Fiji for 16 hours, which was incredible.
Yeah, that wouldn't suck.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Something's frowning for the color time to go down, let know where fire, like a fire, like a burning sun, where you cannot see your mind, and you cannot hold the light in the storm.
How about are you any interest in your music in like Japan or the Far East or any of those kind of places? Have you heard anything?
Not that I've heard of. You know, like the guy in there's a couple guys that like I think run record stores that have bought my stuff and hawk it in Japan, but I don't know what that means. You know,
Right.
you get a picture online of like, oh, it's up there, and it's like, oh, that feels good, but you know, that's just
And you never hear from it again.
yeah, you know, we're pretty small potatoes, and whenever something happens, I'm like, wow, shit, that's amazing. I just have no, well, not exceptions. What's no? I don't expect anything.
Right.
I don't expect anything from my music. So when anything happens, it's just like, you know, I'm elated.
Well, that's a good attitude to have, because
Yeah.
then if you have your expectations kind of tempered, then you're not going to always be disappointed if you expect this big thing. I'm going to go over to Japan and I'm going to be rocking the shit. There's going to be 10,000 people there. And then you show up and it's not.
It's never that.
Then you're not going to be, it won't be as enjoyable as it could have been.
Well, especially, man, I've been like booking my own gigs for so long, and like, I'm not really a part of, like the machine that helps people get to those places, But I like that, I like that it stays. I have a great network of musicians and friends that we've been in touch with for years, that it's like, I think it's so valuable to me, and I love going out and seeing other bands that, like, if you're in that circuit, you really don't see those kind of bands.
Right.
You know what I mean? And I love it, So, but I don't know. When opportunities come, I really don't like think about it. I usually jump on
Just do it.
opportunity.
Yeah.
So.
Well, that's a healthy attitude to have. I mean, in my opinion.
Well, because you fucking have to have it. If you don't have that shit, you're fucked. If
Well,
you go in like, I want to make a bunch of money. I want to like why'd you choose music? Like, you should be a banker.
Yeah, exactly.
Like,
Why aren't you an attorney or something?
Like, if money's
case?
your passion, like, you should choose something where that actually comes from it. So there's the band that's like treating it like a job, and then there's a band that's treating it like, I have to do this because I'll fucking kill myself if I don't do this thing. That's an extreme.
Right. I can't, but I will. I want to do
But
nothing else but this.
This is it.
I
I have to do this, and this is like this pure expression or something. And that's not to say that people like that get to that level that have more goals like can't do that stuff. But normally, when you see that stuff, it's more gridded, it's more locked in, and there's just more of a format to it. And
absolutely.
I like things where they throw the format out the window.
It's reflection can shine in your eyes.
Like, I mean, I don't want to throw like Led Zeppelin into the mix because I hated them for so long because you just hear all the fucking copycats of it. And it wasn't until like I saw like the live Royal Albert Hall footage of them where it's just like, they are fucking feral.
Yeah.
It's real shit. And then also getting to the satanic side of Jimmy Page, which is amazing.
He's a trip. I mean,
working with Kenneth Anger and shit like that. Yeah, he's cool as hell.
Jimmy Page.
Well, he's also he's got his bullshit too. But yeah.
Well, they all do, and I feel like if you've been famous for like 50 years or whatever, you have to have some of that in you. Like, you have to just. You're a little bit crazy. You've dealt with a lot of crazy shit. Like,
well, then also that time where you're brought up like a king, and it's just like anything is yours. Mm-hmm. Do whatever you need to get this product out. It's like that's fucked up. Like,
and Led Zeppelin also took it to an extreme. They're sort of debauchery and whatever. And it's like when you hear those kind of stories. The first time I was ever on a band's tour bus when I was like 17, I expected Led Zeppelin level of debauchery, like naked girls riding on motorcycles down the hallway of the bus. Yeah. None of that shit was there. I met some L.A. Guns. It was a heavy metal band, L.A. Guns. I came on their bus because a friend of mine was dropping off some videotapes to one of the guys, bootleg videos of a band that they wanted to watch. They were playing like backgammon on the tour bus, and I was like, okay, I'm a little disappointed here. Like, I thought this was going to be some craziness, and you guys are just playing backgammon on the bus. And it's funny how shit works out, but
you gotta keep your head. It's cool to see the people that are mellow off, that can handle it.
Yeah.
Hopefully it's something I feel like we just talked about, like Kiss and shit for 20 minutes.
But that's what the YouTube, the longer form, will be more interesting.
Cool.
I'll go ahead and stop it. Hey, you stayed all the way till the end. Thanks for that. Much appreciated. Thanks a lot for watching the video. I put the link to David Nance's Bandcamp down below. It was also on the screen before, too. Definitely pick up some of his music. I would prefer you buy the vinyl, but you know what? If you want to just do the digital thing, that's okay, too. No big deal. And like we said, it is on the streaming services if you just want to get a taste of it sort of first. Thanks a lot for watching, everybody.